how obsessed we've been with the Winter Olympics. Like, so obsessed, unbelievably obsessed. I'm very excited to say that my next guest is joining me fresh from Beijing. Nigel Mitchell is Team GB's Winter Olympic nutritionist, and he's here to talk us through basically the link between the way we feel and the way that we eat. Nigel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rima. Nice to be here.
Thank you for being here. First off, I have to ask you, how was it all?
It was very interesting. The least to say, it was an experience. It was like no other Olympic Games in that because of the COVID restrictions, we got off the flight in Beijing. We were whisked away on buses on a motorway that closed the motorway, and we had a police escort that took us to the Olympic Village. And then basically we were in the Olympic Village for nearly 4 weeks. And then the reverse was coming home. So Unfortunately, didn't get to see much of China, which is a great shame. But at least it enabled the competition to go on.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, that is a good thing that the competition was allowed to happen, and we were sat at home watching and cheering on Team GB. But yeah, it doesn't seem like as glamorous as it looks, probably from the outside.
No, not at all. I mean, normally the Olympic experience is, you really get a chance to feel the culture of the country that you go to. But yeah, it is what it is, and China put an amazing job on with the Olympics, enabling it for it to go ahead. And one of the things you realise, the investment that the country had put into it, and in a lot of ways, it's a little bit sad for them because they weren't able to get a full return on that. So where we were, they'd built a state-of-the-art, brand new high-speed rail link from where we were to Beijing. Massive train station, big conferencing complex, and all of these will get used in the future. But it's a shame for the country they couldn't showcase them at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad that you all came home with some medals to show for it. The 4 weeks in the Olympic Village, all just doing it and coming home. But Nigel, I've got to ask you, what was the food like there? Because you are a nutritionist. Were you impressed? Tell me how you felt about it.
Yeah, so I mean, this was the first time I've been to a Winter Olympics. I've worked with Winter Olympic athletes before, worked mainly with Summer Olympians. And the reason that the team wanted me to go was I worked very closely with the cross-country skiers, and they were there for the full full Olympics. They were competing very much from the get-go to the end. And the food and nutrition for those guys is really important. And they'd had some poor experiences within the village in the past. So my role was to go and sort the food out for them. And the thing we really wanted to do was to have like an apartment outside of the village, and then we could have just done it easily. But we weren't allowed to do that because of the COVID restrictions. So my job was actually going up to the food hall several times a day, filling Tupperware containers back, coming back to the room, and then repurposing it into more desirable, more nutritious meals. To be perfectly honest, the food there was very poor in the respect that there wasn't a great deal of choice, and a lot of the quality, because they're doing mass catering, then a lot of the quality of things like vegetables tended to be really, really overcooked. And so it wasn't amazing. So my job was to sort of ensure that the athletes were getting exactly what they required from an energy and a quality perspective. So it kept me on my toes, kept me busy, and really enjoyable. I mean, as you can imagine, something like that is really quite challenging to do, but we were able to do it.
You know what? It's really shocking, I think, for us to hear the like some of the most elite athletes in the world are getting soggy vegetables to eat at the Olympics. That's mad to hear.
Well, some of the other countries were putting things out on social media about it, and some of the people who were actually quarantined, it wasn't particularly good. But again, what you've got to remember is because of COVID, it just caused so many
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
obstacles and so many obstructions. And this is part of what we're particularly good at within Team G and with the support of the British Olympic Association is being able to think of, okay, this is what the situation is going to be. How do we overcome that? How do we, how do we turn something that's a potential negative into a positive?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're here because for a lot of us, I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to be really honest here, Nigel. A
Yeah.
lot of us will not see elite level athletics in our lives. That's not
Really?
what we're going to see. It's not going to be. I know it's a shocker. It's a shocker to hear, especially from
really
me.
surprised.
Yeah, yeah. But we can all try and eat a little bit better, put into our bodies what the athletes are putting into theirs, and taking from what you've just said. Sometimes it can be quite difficult, can't it, for a normal everyday person to take a meal that is it's fine and make it better.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really, I mean, you've really sort of segued lovely into the work that we've been doing with Aldi here. What they really were wanting to do, because they support Team GB both summer and winter. There were a lot of, in the summer games last year, there were a lot of discussion about mental health and emotional well-being. And so what they were really wanting to do was to look at some of the aspects of food and diet and how that links in with mood and well-being. And so they conducted some research which didn't really surprise me, but showing that a lot of people when they feel that they need a bit of a boost, they go for things which are really quite empty calories, high in sugar, and they recognise that they're not necessarily getting something that's giving them longer support. It's just very, very immediate. And one of the things with this is it really helps to provide us a platform, an opportunity to better inform and hopefully provide some information and advice that can help to support people to eat better and to have a healthier lifestyle.
Because we know that link definitely exists for all of us. I can speak for myself when I say I fall into that trap, Nigel. I'm feeling a bit down. Maybe I'm not even hungry and I'll be like, I'm going to have some chocolate. I'm just going to have, or like a packet of crisps or something. But what can we do instead of reaching for those things, which we know which are fine in moderation, but we shouldn't be going for every single time? What would you recommend? Like, what would you recommend to your athletes to be nibbling on?
Well, one of the first things to say, sometimes remember when we're looking at, when we're feeling that we want to eat something like that, then there's different drivers for this, different factors. So we've got a physiological around requiring the energy, in particular carbohydrate, from a brain perspective. There's also a lot of cultural aspects of what we do with food, and obviously there's emotional. But if we're able to be what I call a bit more proactive around our eating, then that can help to prevent some of those really quick sort of desires, what we might be wanting around some of the sugary things. So having, like, one of the recipes we've got on here is where I'm calling super porridge. So this is very simple, where we are using porridge oats, which have got a low glycemic index. In other words, it's slowly released. And then we include within that things like milled flax seeds, which are great for, again, slow released energy, but really good as far as the healthy fats are concerned, which we require from a structural and a functional point of view for the brain. So that can help to feed us for quite some time. And then really thinking about looking at some of the choices we're making instead of the very quickly absorbed carbohydrate, going for some of the slower ones. Like one of the recipes includes quinoa. And that might not be something that many people are familiar with, but it's something that's really easily available. All of the part of what we've ensured with this is that any of the ingredients that we've got there are easily accessible just from a local Aldi supermarket. And obviously you can buy them in any real grocer. So it's really trying to be a bit more proactive and planning and looking at some of the foods which can be a bit slower release. But then there's nothing wrong with a bit of chocolate. And one of the recipes that I've included there is what I call very berry mess. And that's got dark chocolate in it. And the great thing with that is that we get what we call the cocoa flavonoids within that, and they're great for the brain. opening up the blood vessels and helping with our mode.
Next time I'm having dark chocolate, which is my favourite, Nigel, I'm going to use that. Getting my cocoa flavonoids, everyone. Chill.
Yeah, well,
I need
absolutely.
these.
I mean, to be really honest with you, in the past, when when I've had athletes that have been feeling a bit flat sometimes, then I've recommended a little bit of. I won't mention any of the brands, but some of the sort of 80% dark chocolate. And the great thing with it is, you don't necessarily feel that you ought to eat the full bar because it is so concentrated. So it does help you to manage the calorie side of it.
Well, Nigel, absolutely fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon and giving us a bit of an insight into what it was like in Beijing as well. We were following along so closely, but it's nice to get someone who was actually there telling us what it was like.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for having me, Rena.
Nigel Mitchell there, Team GB's Winter Olympic nutritionist, talking us through